Ho, 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 come in close, my merry friends. Pull up your blankets, tuck your toes in, and settle your hearts into a warm and cozy place because tonight's story is about a little voice many of us have heard ourselves. A little voice that says, I'm not ready. In a cheerful little town called Willow Bend, where the sidewalks carved around flower gardens and the bakery smelled like cinnamon buns nearly every morning, there lived a little girl named Nora. Nora was 11 years old with a bright brown eyes, a quick mind, and a laugh that came out in little bursts like bubbles escaping a bottle. She loved drawing, she loved animals, she loved reading under the big maple tree in her backyard. She loved making up stories. Oh, my friends, Nora could make up a story out of anything. A pebble became a tiny mountain, a spoon became a royal shovel, a sock without a match became a brave explorer searching for its lost twin. Her little brother Milo thought this was the finest entertainment in the world. Tell the one about the sock again, he would beg. Milo would stand on the sofa, raise one hand dramatically up and say, Captain Sockington sailed across the laundry sea. Milo would collapse into giggles before she even got to the part where the dryer dragon, now everybody in Nora's family knew she had a gift for stories. Her mother knew, her father knew, even their old dog, Biscuit, seemed to know, although Biscuit showed support, mostly by sleeping nearby and snoring at meaningful moments. But Nora had one problem. She could tell stories at home. She could tell stories to Milo. She could tell stories to Biscuit, who was a very loyal audience as long as snacks were involved. But telling a story in front of other people, oh no, that felt different. That felt huge. That felt like trying a jungle jelly while standing on a trampoline. One Monday morning, Nora's teacher, Mrs. Bell, clapped her hands in front of the classroom. Class, I have a very important announcement. She said brightly, this Friday is our community story night. Everybody turned to look at each other. Mrs. Bell continued, each student may share something that they created. A poem, a drawing, a song, a short story, a memory, or even a kind message. Nora's heart gave a little jump. Stories? She loves stories. Then Mrs. Bell added, you'll share it on the stage in the library. Nora's heart jumped again, but this time it jumped behind the couch and hid. The stage. In the library, with people watching. Nora sank slightly in her chair. Her friend Lily leaned over and whispered, you should tell one of your stories. Nora whispered back, absolutely not. Why? I'm not ready. Lily tilted her head. You tell stories all the time. To you, Nora said, and Milo and Biscuit. Biscuit counts as a crowd, Lily said. No, said Nora, Biscuit counts as furniture with opinions. Lily tried not to laugh. Across the room, a boy named Theo was already raising his hand. I'm going to play my ukulele, he said. Wonderful, said Miss Bell. A student named Gracie said, I'll read a poem. Another said, I'll show my comic book. Nora looked down at her notebook where the corner of a new story peeked out. The title was written in careful letters, The Brave Little Lantern. It was about a tiny lantern that thought its light was too small to matter until one foggy afternoon and evening when it helped a lost traveler find a path home. Nora loved that story, but sharing it, no. No, thank you. Not today. Not this week. Maybe not until she was 83. That afternoon, Nora walked home slower than usual. The sky was soft, and the little leaves skittled across the sidewalk like they were late for a meeting. When she got home, Milo was waiting at the kitchen table with crayons spread everywhere. "Nora," he said, "tell me a story." Nora dropped her backpack. "I don't feel like it." Milo blinked. That was unusual. Even Biscuit opened one eye. Nora's mom looked over from the counter. "Everything okay?" Nora shrugged. "Community story night is Friday." "That sounds exciting." "I'm not ready." Her mom dried her hands on the towel and sat beside her. "Not ready for what?" she said. "To share, on stage, in front of people." Milo gasped. "A stage? Like with lights?" "Yes, and chairs. Yes, and people breathing." Oh, Nora stared at him. "That is oddly specific." Milo nodded seriously. "People breathing? Making things more dramatic?" Nora almost smiled. Her mom rested a hand on hers. "Nora, being nervous doesn't always mean you're not ready." "It feels like it does." "I know," said Mom, "but sometimes nervous just means something matters." Nora looked at her notebook. "What if I mess up?" "Then you breathe and keep going." "What if my voice shakes?" "Then your voice is being brave while shaking." "What if everybody thinks it's silly?" Milo leaned in. "I think Captain Sockington is serious literature." Nora laughed despite herself. Mom smiled. "You don't have to decide tonight, but maybe, just practice." So Nora practiced a little. She stood in her room, opened her notebook, and read the first line. "Once in a village tucked away between hills, there lived a tiny lantern named Luma." Then she stopped. Her voice sounded strange in the quiet room. Too small, too wobbly, too much like someone trying to be brave, with knees made of pudding. "I'm not ready," she whispered, and then she closed the notebook. The next day at school, Mrs. Bell, who had decided to participate, hands went up. Lily raised hers, Theo raised his, Gracie raised hers. Nora kept her hands folded in her lap. Mrs. Bell didn't push, but after class she said gently, "Nora, I heard you have wonderful stories." Nora froze. "Lily told you." Mrs. Bell smiled. "She may have mentioned a heroic sock." Nora sighed. "That sock has become too famous." Mrs. Bell sat on the edge of her desk. "You don't have to perform if you're not comfortable. But may I ask you something?" Nora nodded. What would you tell one of your characters if they said, "I'm not ready"? Nora looked down. She thought of Luma, the tiny lantern. She'd probably say, "Take one step. You don't have to light the whole road at once." Mrs. Bell's eyes softened. "That sounds very wise." Nora shrugged. "It's easier when it's a lantern." "Most wisdom is easier when it belongs to someone else," Mrs. Bell said with a wink. That made Nora smile. On Wednesday, Lily came over after school. "I have a plan," Lily announced. Nora looked suspicious. "Your plans sometimes involve glitter." "Only once." "You glittered my pencil case." "It needed joy." Nora crossed her arms. Lily pulled 2 chairs into the living room. "We're going to practice story night." "No." "Yes." "No." "Tiny audience," Lily said. "Just me, Milo, and Biscuit." Biscuit lifted his head. Milo rushed in immediately. "I accept." Nora held her notebook tightly. "I'm not ready." Lily nodded. "Okay, then don't start with ready. Start with opening the notebook." Nora blinked. "That's it." "That's it?" So Nora opened the notebook. "Good," said Lily. "Now read the title." Nora swallowed. The brave little lantern. Milo clapped. Biscuit sneezed. Strong review from the dog, Lily said. Nora laughed. Then Lily said, now read one sentence. Nora read the first sentence, then the second, then somehow the third. Her voice shook a little, but it didn't break. She kept going, and by the time she finished the first page, Milo was leaning towards with wide open. What happens to Luma? He asked. Nora looked at him. You want more? Obviously, Milo said. She's a lantern with emotional depth. Lily whispered, he's getting fancy. So Nora read more and more. She stumbled over a word, skipped the line, and accidentally called the lantern Llama instead of Luma. Milo fell sideways laughing, the brave little llama. Nora covered her face. Oh no. Lily laughed too, but kindly, and then Nora laughed. Really laughed. For the first time all week, the stage in her mind seemed a little less giant. On Thursday evening, Nora and her mum took a walk. The air was cool and the porch lights glowed along the street. They passed Mr. Adams, who was watering plants even though it had rained that morning. Evening, he called. A block later, they passed the little library, where community story night would happen. Nora stopped. She looked through the windows. She could see chairs set up in neat rows. A small stage stood at the front. Her stomach fluttered. There it is, she said. Mum stood beside her. It's okay to be scared. Nora nodded. I still feel not ready. Mum was quiet for a moment. Then she said, when you learned to ride your bike, did you feel ready? Nora thought back. She remembered the helmet too big on her head, her dad holding the seat, her feet wobbling on the pedals. She remembered yelling, don't let go, then realizing he already had. No, she admitted, and when you first read a chapter book by yourself, I thought it was too long. And when you helped Milo bake pancakes? Nora smiled. That was different. The pancake stuck to the ceiling. It did, Mum said. Your father still checks up there sometimes. They both laughed. Mum looked towards the library. Sometimes ready doesn't come before the brave thing. Sometimes ready comes after you begin. Nora held the thought all the way home. Friday arrived. Community story night. All day long, Nora felt like butterflies had moved into her stomach, invited their cousins, and started a dance club. At lunch, Lily asked, are you doing it? Nora took a deep breath. I don't know. That's okay, Lily said. I'll save you a seat either way. That evening, the library glowed warmly. Families entered carrying coats, programs, and smiles. Grandparents sat in the front row. Younger siblings wiggled in chairs. Mrs. Bell stood near the stage welcoming everyone. Nora arrived with her family. Her notebook was in her hands. Not because she had decided, but because she couldn't leave it behind. Theo played his ukulele first. He missed 2 notes, made a funny face. They then kept playing. Everybody clapped. Gracie read her poem and forgot one line, then smiled and said, poems like surprises. Everybody clapped. Lily showed a drawing of a dragon who loved gardening. Everybody clapped. One boy performed a magic trick that mostly involved dropping cards on the floor. Everybody clapped. Nora noticed something. Nobody was perfect. Nobody had to be. Then Mrs. Bell stepped up. We have time for one more, she said. Would anybody else like to share? The room was quiet. Nora looked at her notebook. Her heart whispered, I'm not ready. But another voice, softer and stronger, whispered back, take one step. Nora stood. Her legs felt wobbly. Milo gasped loudly. She's doing it. Mom gently squeezed his shoulder. Nora walked to the stage, one step, then another. The stage lights felt warm. The audience looked larger from up there, much larger, like a sea of faces wearing sweaters. Nora opened her notebook. Her hands trembled. She looked at Mrs. Bell. Mrs. Bell nodded. She looked at Lily. Lily smiled. She looked at Milo. Milo gave 2 thumbs up and almost fell out of his chair. Nora breathed in, then she began. Once in a village tucked away between the hills, there lived a tiny lantern named Luma. Her voice shook just a little, but the room stayed kind, so she kept going. Then she told them about Luma, who thought her light was too small. She told them about the foggy evening. She told them about the traveler who couldn't see the path. And then came the part Nora loved most. Luma trembled on her hook and whispered, "I'm not ready." But the wind answered, "You don't have to light the whole world. Just shine where you are." The room was completely still, not bored still, listening still. Nora felt it. They were with her, so she kept reading. Her voice grew steadier. Her shoulders relaxed. The words stopped feeling like stones she had to carry and started feeling like birds she could let fly. Then she reached the end. She read slowly, and from that night on, Luma never called herself too small again, because she learned that even a tiny light could help someone find the way home. For one heartbeat, nobody moved. Then the room filled with applause. Warm applause, kind applause. Nora looked up, stunned. Milo stood in his chair and shouted, "That's my sister!" Mom pulled him down gently. Nora laughed. The audience laughed too, and something bright opened up inside her. Not the kind of bright that says, "I'm the best," the kind that says, "I tried." Afterward, people came up to her. Mrs. Bell said, "That was beautiful." Lily hugged her. Milo said, "You didn't even say llama this time." "That was my greatest achievement," Nora said. Then an older woman with silver hair approached. "I loved your lantern," she said softly. "I think many people feel small sometimes. Thank you for reminding us that we can still shine." Nora didn't know what to say at first. Then she smiled. "Thank you." On the walk home, the stars were out. Nora held her notebook against her chest. Mom looked over. "How do you feel?" Nora thought about it. "Tired." Mom laughed. "Fair." "And happy." "That too." Nora looked up at the stars. "I still wasn't ready when I stood up." Mom smiled. No, Nora said, "but I stood up anyway." Milo skipped ahead. "Next time, tell Captain Sockington." Nora laughed. "Maybe." Then she stopped. "Next time?" She had said next time. And she meant it. At home, Biscuit was waiting by the door, wagging his tail as if he had personally arranged the whole evening. Nora knelt and scratched his ears. "I did it, Biscuit." Biscuit licked her cheek. Milo nodded. He's proud. Dad smiled. We all are. That night, Nora placed her notebook on her desk. She didn't feel like a different person, not exactly. She still felt like Nora. Still nervous sometimes. Still full of what-ifs. Still likely to mix up Luma and Llama if she wasn't careful, but something inside her had changed. She had learned that courage wasn't waiting until all the fear disappeared. Courage was bringing the fear along and saying, "You can sit there, but you don't get to drive." The next morning, Nora woke up early, opened her notebook to a fresh page. At the top, she wrote, "The girl who thought she wasn't ready." Then she paused and smiled and added, "But began anyway." And my merry friends, that was only the beginning. From then on, Nora shared more stories. Some were funny, some were gentle, some were about socks, lanterns, dragons, pancakes, and one very proud dog named Biscuit, who saved the day by taking a nap in exactly the right place. She still gets nervous, oh yes. Even years later, whenever Nora stood before a crowd, her heart still fluttered. But she no longer thought nervous meant stop. She knew nervous could also mean this matters. She knew that the first step might wobble, the first word might shake, the first try might not be perfect. But she also knew something even more important. Ready is not always a feeling. Sometimes ready is a choice, a quiet choice, a brave choice, a choice to open the notebook, to stand up, to shine where you are. And somewhere in the back of her mind, whenever fear whispered, "I'm not ready," Nora would smile and whisper back, "Maybe not." But then she would take one step forward and begin. Here's the moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes we wait to feel completely ready before we try something new. But courage often begins before readiness arrives. When we take one small step, speak one honest word, or share one little light, we discover strength we didn't know we had. Being brave doesn't mean never feeling nervous. It means believing in yourself enough to begin, even when your voice shakes. And when we choose to try, we may surprise not only others, but ourselves. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, wasn't that awesome? Come back tomorrow and listen to another great story by Santa. This is Storytime by Santa. Ho, ho, ho.